In 1502, Cesare Borgia walked into a room full of men who had conspired to kill him. He knew every name. He knew every plot. He knew the exact date they planned to strike. But he didn't attack. He didn't accuse. He smiled. He poured them wine. He laughed at their jokes. He made them feel safe. 3 months later, every single one of them was dead. Strangled, ambushed, or politically destroyed. Not a single one saw it coming. Because the most dangerous man in the room is never the loudest, never the angriest, and never the one making threats. He's the one you never suspected. Niccolò Machiavelli studied Borgia obsessively, traveled with him, documented his every move, and used him as the blueprint for the prince. And from that study, a pattern emerged. A pattern of traits that separate ordinary men from genuinely dangerous ones. Today I'm revealing 7 signs that you are becoming that man. Not dangerous in a reckless way, dangerous in a way that makes you impossible to manipulate, impossible to control, and impossible to defeat. If you recognize yourself in 3 or more of these signs, your transformation has already begun. Sign 1, you've stopped reacting and started observing. There was a time when every insult triggered you. Every provocation pulled a response out of you. Someone disrespected you, you fired back immediately. Someone challenged you, your ego exploded before your brain could think. That version of you is dying, or already dead. The dangerous man doesn't react. He observes. When someone insults him, he doesn't flinch. He studies why they said it, what they're trying to provoke, what insecurity of theirs is driving the attack. He watches body language. He reads micro-expressions. He collects data while everyone else collects emotions. Machiavelli watched Cesare Borgia sit through meetings where men openly mocked his strategies. Borgia said nothing. He smiled. He nodded. He took mental notes. Weeks later, those same men were removed from power, quietly, precisely, without a single emotional outburst. The psychology behind this is called cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reinterpret a situation before responding emotionally. Research from Stanford psychologist James Gross found that people who practice cognitive reappraisal have better relationships, higher incomes, lower stress, and significantly more social influence than those who react emotionally. If you've noticed that you no longer explode when provoked, that you pause, analyze, and choose your response with surgical precision, you're not becoming passive. You're becoming lethal. The man who controls his reactions controls the entire room. Sign 2, you've become comfortable with being disliked. This is the sign that terrifies most people, because the need to be liked is hardwired into human survival. 10,000 years ago, being disliked by your tribe meant exile. Exile meant death. So your brain evolved to avoid social rejection at all costs, even if that cost is your authenticity, your ambitions, and your power. The dangerous man has overridden this programming. Machiavelli wrote the most misunderstood line in political history: "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Most people read this as cruelty. It's not. It's mathematics. Love is conditional. It depends on what you give people: attention, validation, favors. The moment you stop giving, love disappears. Fear, or more accurately, deep respect, is based on what you are. And what you are doesn't change with every interaction. When you stop bending yourself to be liked, when you make decisions based on what's right for you rather than what's comfortable for others, people will call you cold, arrogant, selfish. Some will leave. Some will talk behind your back. And here's the sign you've changed: you'll hear all of it and feel nothing. Not because you're heartless, but because you've realized that a man who needs everyone's approval is a man controlled by everyone. Cesare Borgia was hated by half of Italy. He didn't care. He was building an empire while his critics were building opinions. Opinions fade. Empires don't. Sign 3, you move in silence. There was a time when you announced every goal, posted every ambition, told everyone your plans before you even started. You thought sharing your dreams would create accountability. Instead, it created 2 things: premature satisfaction and free intelligence for your competitors. The dangerous man has learned the deadliest Machiavellian lesson: silence is strategy. When Borgia planned to conquer the Romagna region, he told no one. Not his generals. Not his allies. Not even his father, Pope Alexander VI, until the last possible moment. His enemies were still debating whether he would attack when his army was already at their gates. Modern psychology confirms this. A 2009 study by NYU professor Peter Gallwitzer found that announcing your goals publicly triggers a phenomenon called social reality. Your brain registers the announcement itself as progress. You feel accomplished before you've accomplished anything. Motivation drops. Execution dies. If you've noticed that you no longer feel the urge to share your plans, that you actually feel uncomfortable when people ask what you're working on, this is not paranoia. This is evolution. The loudest man in the room is performing. The silent man in the room is executing. And by the time anyone notices, it's already too late to compete. Sign 4. You've started studying people instead of blindly trusting them. When you were younger, you trusted by default. You assumed good intentions. You gave second chances freely. You believed people's words without checking their actions. The dangerous man trusts patterns, not promises. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so obedient to present needs that the one who deceives will always find those willing to be deceived." This isn't cynicism. It's observation. Most people lie, not out of malice but out of self-interest. They tell you what keeps them comfortable, not what's true. The dangerous man has learned to read between words. He watches what people do when they think no one is looking. He notices who shows up during hard times, not good times. He tracks patterns over months before forming an opinion about someone's character. He's not paranoid. He's precise. He doesn't distrust everyone. He simply refuses to trust anyone without evidence. Borgia kept detailed mental files on every ally, every enemy, and every person in between. He knew their ambitions, their fears, their debts, and their vices. When betrayal came, and it always came, he was never surprised. Because he never trusted words. He trusted patterns. If you've noticed that you now evaluate people slowly, quietly, and based on actions rather than words, your instincts are being sharpened into weapons. This is one of the most dangerous transformations a man can undergo. Sign 5. You no longer seek revenge, you seek position. An immature man gets betrayed and immediately plans revenge. He wants the other person to suffer. He wants them to feel what he felt. He's driven by emotion, and emotion makes you predictable, reckless, and exploitable. The dangerous man gets betrayed and asks one question: how do I position myself so this can never happen again? Machiavelli warned, if an injury has to be done to a man, it should be so severe that his vengeance need not be feared. But the deeper lesson underneath this quote is not about violence. It's about positioning. The best revenge is not destruction, it's elevation. Rising so far above the situation that the person who wronged you becomes irrelevant. When Machiavelli was imprisoned and tortured by the Medici family in 1512, he didn't plot revenge. He wrote The Prince, dedicated it to the very family that tortured him, and used it as a tool to regain political influence. He turned his punishment into his greatest legacy. If you've noticed that betrayal no longer makes you angry, that it makes you strategic, you've crossed a line that most men never cross. You've stopped playing the emotional game and started playing the positional game. And the positional game is where real power lives. Sign 6. You've developed complete emotional self-sufficiency. Most men outsource their emotional stability to external sources. A girlfriend's validation, a friend's approval, a boss's recognition, social media likes. When those sources disappear, they collapse. Their identity crumbles because it was built on borrowed foundations. The dangerous man has built his foundation internally. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, ruled the most powerful empire on earth while battling plague, war, betrayal, and the death of multiple children. He wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He didn't mean suppress emotions. He meant stop depending on external validation to feel stable. Generate your own sense of worth. Generate your own sense of peace. Generate your own sense of purpose, independent of what anyone gives you or takes from you. If you've reached a point where you can sit alone in a room, no phone, no music, no distractions, and feel completely at peace with yourself and your path, you possess something that 95% of men will never develop. This isn't loneliness. This is sovereignty. You are no longer a puppet whose strings can be pulled by whoever offers attention or threatens rejection. You've cut the strings entirely, and a man without strings cannot be controlled. That is what makes him dangerous. Sign 7. You've accepted that the world rewards strategy, not morality. This is the most uncomfortable sign on this list, and the one that confirms the transformation is complete. The younger version of you believed the world was fair, that good things happen to good people, that hard work always gets recognized, that honesty always wins, that karma balances everything. The dangerous man has looked at reality with open eyes and accepted what he saw. Machiavelli wrote, "A man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him among so much that is evil." He wasn't saying abandon morality. He was saying, understand that the world does not operate on morality alone. It operates on strategy, leverage, positioning, and power. A good man with no strategy will be devoured by a bad man with a great one. Every single time. History proves this relentlessly. The most honest leader in the room is rarely the most powerful. The most ethical company is rarely the most profitable. The nicest person in the negotiation is rarely the one who gets the best deal. This doesn't mean you become immoral. It means you become strategic about when to be good and when to be sharp. You learn when to extend trust and when to withhold it. When to show strength and when to appear humble. When to speak truth and when silence serves you better. The dangerous man operates with a moral compass, but he also carries a map. The compass tells him what's right. The map tells him what works. And he's learned that surviving requires both. If you've reached a point where you no longer expect the world to be fair, where you've stopped being surprised by betrayal, manipulation, and self-interest, you haven't become cynical. You've become clear-eyed. And clarity is the most dangerous weapon a man can carry. Machiavelli spent his entire life watching good men fall because they refused to see the world as it was. They clung to how it should be, and it destroyed them. The dangerous man doesn't wish the world were different. He sees it exactly as it is. And he moves through it with precision, patience, and power that cannot be taught, only earned through pain, silence, and transformation. As Machiavelli wrote in the final pages of The Prince, "Fortune is a woman, and if you wish to keep her under, it is necessary to beat and ill-use her. She allows herself to be mastered by the adventurous rather than by those who go to work more coldly. The world doesn't reward the passive. It doesn't reward the loud. It doesn't reward the emotional. It rewards the man who has been broken, rebuilt himself in silence, and returned with eyes that see everything and a mouth that reveals nothing. That man is dangerous. And if you recognized yourself in these 7 signs, that man is you." If this video made you realize the transformation has already begun, hit that like button. Not for me. For the version of yourself that's emerging right now. Subscribe if you want content that doesn't just motivate you but fundamentally changes how you operate in the world. Share this with someone who's in the middle of their transformation. They need to know they're not losing themselves. They're becoming someone the world cannot ignore. See you in the next one.